In spite of protests by landlords, the state of Michigan has decided to make COVID era pandemic eviction protections permanent. I'm Tony, and this is Real Estate Investing and Landlord News. All right, so I have an interesting story for you today, and it's coming out of the state of Michigan. Now, I just read this article, and you wouldn't believe that they want to make pandemic eviction protections permanent, okay? It's absolutely ridiculous, in my opinion. That stuff was supposed to be temporary, something that they passed just because all of the suffering that people were going through due to mostly the lockdowns. But you get the point, okay? The government is the one who caused all these issues. They told people they couldn't go to work. They told us that we couldn't evict our tenants, and now they want to put those laws into a permanent status. Okay, it's not a temporary thing. Landlords will forever be forced to keep tenants in their properties that they don't want to, or it isn't exactly that, but I'm going to go over the details as I go through this article. So before I get into the article, go ahead, hit the like, subscribe button, maybe leave a comment down below, and let me know what you think. So, did you think that some of these eviction protections that states and local municipalities were passing, did you think they were going to become permanent? Now, obviously, I did. Okay, I knew that the second they started implementing these laws, they had no intention of ever ending them. And as you saw, it took years before a lot of the eviction moratoriums ended, and there still are going to be, just permanent artifacts left in landlord tenant law throughout the country of what happened due to the 2020 pandemic. Okay, so it's absolutely insane. And as our property rights slowly get chipped away, all I can think is, yeah, they're going to use any opportunity they can in order to make things worse for us. So anyway, let me get into this article and tell you what it says. This article is coming from midmichigannow.com, and it says, Michigan makes pandemic era eviction laws permanent. A move beneficial or detrimental? So at least the people who are writing this article are trying to figure out whether this is a good move or a bad move. A lot of these publications, when they put these articles out, they always look at it from the perspective of, oh, this is going to be a great thing. So this is kind of refreshing. Let's see what the article says. Starting next month, what were once pandemic era laws will become permanent regarding evictions in Michigan. Two of those laws that will stay include having remote court hearings and allowing a judge to put off a hearing if a tenant applied for rental assistance. This comes after a decision last month by the Michigan Supreme Court. What we are seeing is an increase in the eviction rate. That's what the data from the Supreme Court shows, says Jim Shaftsma. He is the housing attorney at the Michigan Poverty Law Program. He believes that making these laws permanent will help both tenants and landlords. How exactly is this going to help landlords? I mean, really. Let's talk about it. Let me see here. Somebody applied for rental assistance, so you can't evict them. So you have to go additional months without getting paid rent. That will benefit you, right? Or tenants who normally wouldn't show up to a court hearing because they have nothing to argue or to win their case, right? Well, now they're going to easily be able to show up on a Zoom call from their cell phone. That's not helping things either. All that's going to do is cause landlords to spend more money on lawyers and to pay legal fees. So to me, all of these additional laws and protections that they are putting out there, they're not going to benefit landlords. More landlords they're not going to get paid. Like they're like, oh, well, the rental assistance, if the tenant puts in for the rental assistance, then the landlord will make it. Like, yeah. But here's the thing, right? Let's say that the tenant does pay you the rental assistance. And this is something I just went through, right? Yeah, the tenant paid, or, I was paid the rental assistance for my tenant, and I still had to evict them. I filed eviction against that tenant because they still were unable to pay the rent after they received the rental assistance. So it didn't benefit me at all. It would have been better just for me to be able to get rid of that tenant as soon as possible, put another paying tenant in there who I wouldn't have to evict, because I didn't end up actually making any additional money due to the rental assistance. So, it would have been better for me to get rid of that person. Oh man, it's very frustrating to me when I hear of these tenant advocates who seem to think that, oh well, I think that what they're doing is they are lying. They're lying so that they can get the public on their side and say, oh, see, this will benefit landlords too. No, it won't. It will not. One of the laws is a judge's ability to put a pause on an eviction case. Certainly, that works for the benefit of both the landlord and the tenant if emergency rental assistance is approved, said Shafsma. And that's the big thing. If it is approved. Now, what happens if it's denied? What if the tenant didn't qualify for emergency rental assistance? Okay, well, that means it's just a longer period of time that a landlord isn't making any money. During the pandemic, a pause was placed on evictions due to the national health emergency. When the eviction moratorium was lifted, along came these temporary laws. Not the law. Now I'm sorry. Now the laws. They have a typo in here. Poorly written article. But now the laws will become permanent. I think there's a heightened awareness now about risk and harms of eviction, but unfortunately, far too many of them are still occurring. But I think this policy of the Michigan Supreme Court reflects in part, how harmful evictions are, says Shafsma. But not everyone sees this working in favor of the landlords. Yeah, I'm one of those people. I can see the flaws in this plan, but let's see what the person in the article is saying. Of course, our members are was were man. This is hard to read. Of course, our members are was working with their tenants and trying to keep them in their properties. That is their first and foremost goal. But trying to get those evictions done in a timely manner is really important because when rent isn't being paid, they're not earning anything on those properties, said Erica Farley. She's the executive director of the Rental Property Owners Association of Michigan. Farley says a lot of property owners are concerned with how the laws could impact them and their business. There are some that we're not paying any rent for a very long time during. I think they mean there are some that we're not paying. Goodness. You know, I'm going to go on a rant here, okay? They need good proofreaders to go through some of these newspaper articles. I'm trying to read it and it is just written absolutely horribly. I mean, I've come across 3 mistakes so far. It's like they published this thing and they didn't have anyone actually go through and read it. Okay. I mean, what a joke. I mean, I don't know if I've ever pulled an article up from midmichigannow.com, but if anybody from that publication is watching this video, do your job. Fix this crap, okay? This is horrible. And so people are holding on to these properties and no one's being paid. That means property taxes are coming out of the landlord's pocket. They're not being paid towards that or any mortgage payments, utilities, said Farley. Farley fears this could leave landlords selling their properties because they have run out of money. And that is exactly what's going to happen, okay? You're going to drive some landlords into financial ruin. You're going to drive some landlords out of business just because they don't want to deal with all these stupid laws. And the result will be less affordable housing and more expensive costs for those who need cheaper housing. So, yeah, you're going to have less units out there, etc. This is never a good thing. When you pass laws, there's always going to be unintended consequences. Always keep in mind that, hey, you pass the law with the idea that, hey, landlords are just going to comply. They're just going to comply and do everything according to the law. But it never occurs to you that, hey, you might manipulate the actions of the landlords into a way that you didn't think was going to happen. Okay, so you might say, okay, we're going to pass this law that says that all hearing can now be virtual. Well, a landlord themselves, it might not be the tenants who don't show up in court. Landlords and their representatives might never show up in court again. Okay, you might make it easier for landlords to file evictions by doing that. Or more likely, landlords who would have worked with their tenant before now are saying, hey, we're going to file more evictions and more people are going to get evicted. But I don't know. All I know is that, I've never agreed with the policy of a lot of these governments just to keep passing more laws, thinking that's going to somehow fix the problem. It's not going to stop the eviction crisis. Okay, it's not. The thing that'll stop the eviction crisis is people, right, actually being able to have access to housing that they can afford, which means that we need more developers out there building. We need more landlords out there providing properties, not less.